even a new way of involving Zoom listeners. So we'll see how this all works. What's happened to Mennonite Sabbath? That was July 2024, this year. The July theme for a month of sermons here at College Mennonite was Sabbath. Likely you were present for one or two, or maybe all. I think there were 4 sermons. We were encouraged to take up a Sabbath practice for 3 months. So we're kind of at that point now. So maybe this just for there's no reporting back to the leadership team at College Mennonite, the pastors, but a kind of check-in of how's it going, or what happened, or what is happening. One of the surprises was Talasha setting aside time during a sermon she was giving, where we were instructed to talk to several around us and do something, make a plan. I was fortunate to be sitting near people who take instruction seriously. And someone else in this group wasn't so fortunate. And so they did probably what I might have been inclined to do. Yeah, I mean, like following instructions that somebody gives me. Wait a minute. Anyway, I was fortunate. Sabbath, or maybe you're more comfortable calling today simply a Sunday, which is our Sabbath day. I was thinking about how that leaves it free of religious observance. It's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I dare say most of us grew up in communities that had strong expectations for Sabbath or Sunday. Amish and Jewish friends, neighbors, family members are nearby reminders still of observance of Sabbath day, whether that happens on Saturday for Jewish people or on Sunday. Several years, my 2 Jewish granddaughters attended a preschool attached to a synagogue. And the all-school assembly Friday noon was always a joyous, rowdy occasion with traditional songs and actions, and a rabbi who came in to tell stories, usually around the theme of mitzvah. You know, good deeds and how good deeds that are appropriate for preschool age children. And loaves of challah bread were ready for pickup. Well, that started me thinking, seeing that happen and attending some of those Friday assemblies, started me thinking. And because I live near Amish people, grew up near Amish people, still relate to them, how Sabbath has changed for me, and I think for most of us here. So I'm not sure why the church office decided to do a month of Sundays related to Sabbath, but here we are today to kind of reflect on that. What we'll do is break up into small groups, 4 people, 5, whatever, 6, and reflect on these questions. What's started to think about this morning. It's sort of like a sociological exercise here. But what is the purpose of Sabbath? How did the month of sermons strike you? What thoughts or ideas came to you? Did you try or imagine a particular practice for Sabbath? Did you renew or recall long ago Sabbath practices? And then the important question, are Sabbath practices valuable for retirees in Goshen? We'll meet in small groups, and John has reminded me that people on Zoom can also meet in groups. It's been a couple of years since I did that, and I'd forgotten the practice, but we'll try to put those on Zoom into a group, a room it's called, and then we'll talk together for about 20 minutes or so on these questions. And on that last question, talk about that in your group, but then we'll reassemble, and that one we'll talk together about it. Are Sabbath practices valuable? Any questions? When the school year started, these chairs were spaced about that far apart. And I was hoping they would continue that way, but things change. And so they've become real squished together again. But we're free to move them around. And so whatever makes it easy for you to hear each other, you know, we're in a fairly small, there's space, empty space over here. And I know hearing is an issue sometimes for individuals. You won't have microphones in your small groups, but let's see if we can break into groups of 5, 6, 7 people in a group to spend some time with these questions. And one reason I'd like to try the smaller groups is everyone gets a chance to contribute, to talk. And that's a little hard. That's harder when we're in one large group. So this is our opportunity to talk together, and feel free to move around, and may you be so fortunate as I was that Sunday when Talasha preached to be those of you who don't like to follow the rules or just somehow have better rules to follow. May you be somehow find your way just by happenstance to those who do follow the rules, and we'll have a good time together. So let's give that a try. Anyone want?
As a retiree in Goshen, I spend too much time during the week news on my phone in an ordinate amount of time, because it's kind of interesting, it's entertaining, it's frustrating. So I have to get away from that, have a Sabbath from all the news that's swirling around.
We talked about when we were growing up, a Sabbath practice was inviting people to dinner on Sunday. We don't do that anymore, but one person mentioned that she and her husband often take a walk on Sunday afternoon. And some of us watch less TV.
I heard that some people watch
Some.
more.
All depends on whether.
Well, this is in a way beside the point, but John Amstutz played the oboe this morning. Was it the oboe? Wonderful. Do it again. Say something.
Oh, I thought I was giving it to Barbara.
Whoa. So we're really, okay, this is the group that, in answer to the first question, what was the what is the purpose of Sabbath, or the second question, how did the month of sermons strike you? Not well. I am gathering. You know, Art, you said we used to invite, it was going to someone's house or being in, having guests at our own home, but this was in our parents. We're not talking about the, okay. What was the purpose of that?
It was really to do fellowship with
Okay.
each other after Sunday morning worship. And my wife said that if there were guest speakers, they would be invited into the house as a way of offering hospitality.
Mhm. Yeah, it was building
Building
community.
relationships and community, yes.
I think I heard that in some of the sermons too, ways to build, looking for ways to build community. I see Barb had her, I think Barb had her hand up.
I really enjoyed the Sunday during the Sabbath emphasis month when they met at the college cabin. And I think the weather cooperated so wonderfully to then, but people could just wander around. You could talk with people. You could look at the wonderful nature down at the Whitmer Woods. And I think that was something really special.
One thought I had was, are what we're describing really is a real pattern? How many of us grew up in an urban setting? I'm assuming in this class, relatively few. I see 2 hands, 3, 4, 5. So we really, much of what we're describing is you worked hard on the farm 6 days and you really didn't do social. But interestingly, I bet for many of you also Wednesday night, whether they called it a Wednesday night prayer meeting or whether they called it a Wednesday night something, was also a part of the religious pattern that we had. Sunday morning service, then Sunday evening when you could let the young people. So I grew up by high school with a boys quartet, and you started on Sunday night, and then if you were good enough, you graduated to worship service on Sunday morning. And that was part of that cycle. And my guess is the whole cycle has changed for us now.
It's good to hold in mind that the Jewish religion have people living in urban areas and they observe Sabbath. So it isn't, I don't think we can just put it to, oh, well, that's had to do with urban things. And other comments, and do the Zoom people want to say anything? I think they can hear us and we can hear them if they speak. Go ahead, John. Well,
Vic had a point of the origin of Sabbath among Jewish people was freedom from slavery. So the focus on freedom to listen, to praise, to worship, to not be bound by the normal kinds of expectations and slavery. So that new release is something to engage, of listening and praising, of praying, of being part of a free community.
and so if the practice continues, that would mean it still is valuable today. It serves a purpose. Otherwise, it would go away.
Leonard Gross here.
Unfortunate.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Leonard Gross, you're on.
Okay. There were two of us in the room, Jenny Schwarzenberger and I. And two things that perhaps are of interest. In 1567, an Anabaptist martyr was being tortured on the rack, and they asked him questions. And one of them was, what do you do on the Lord's Day? And his answer was, every day is the Lord's Day. And what he meant is that we Anabaptists don't get drunk Saturday evening, and then on the Lord's Day we make amends and start afresh again, etc. But he did say that in respect of our neighbors, we do not work other fields. We don't do the usual work on anything that's, well, they milk cows and so on. But yes, every day is the Lord's Day. So that was one thing. The other thing is, though, is that indeed we do need a day of rest, whatever rest is. And Jenny mentioned how it is the need for the social. We need to schedule it. She didn't use that word. We need to plan for it to make it happen, and to set aside once a week to socialize in remembrance also, at least as the larger context of the 2 or 3 gathered in the name of Christ. Their God, their Christ is. So those were 2 things we said, and maybe that's all I need to say for now.
Thanks, Leonard. It's interesting what we can do. Both here with technology and as we leave to do something, hesitate for words, for the rest of our Sabbath. Hopefully you have either time of that you do have a time of rest and restoration, recreation available to you, and a time with renewing fellowship with friends, also friends and family. And we'll see you next week.